Does this fit more with Qi and Prana? How does that play together for you?
If an Asian woman were to answer this, they would tell you so many different energy levels and would probably beat me up after listening to it. I'll make it much, much simpler. Of course, if you are a living being and you are also an atheist, you have something like a life battery. And in Asian language, this is primarily done with the kidney energy, with the kidney qi. The kidneys and reproductive system are one system, and that is, so to speak, your own creative power and being able to remain self-sufficient as a creature. However, this is then used up, and now, of course, there are always reports that people live particularly long lives in certain areas, or that certain people who have meditated are already 240 years old. So I'll come to the Holy Spirit at some point. Don't worry about that. Now let's take the normal thing. For example, if you lived on Ikaria in Greece. This is an island of 100 years, but only if you stay there. So it has another kind of creation energy amplifier. Likewise, Vilcabamba in, where was that, Venezuela or something like that, before they probably broadcast it everywhere with cell phone antennas and the like. Women can easily live to be 120 years old, and men can live to be 160, but when they leave the village, they die just like a cultured man. So that's probably due to the super river in this high mountain valley, which is, by the way, an ancient Inca or Aztec area. So there is the amplifier zone again, and then you can of course know that if you move into areas like this with a particularly high level of cell phone chemistry, maybe it was Bitterfeld in the GDR, then of course you can shorten it even faster. So in that respect you have a choice in terms of where you live. And it's not for nothing that I moved to the sea and out of Berlin when the first wrinkles appeared. And sport doesn't necessarily keep you healthy. Old meditating Asians would be clapping their hands in front of their faces again, saying you're just being fooled. Because if you have a lot of stress, you shouldn't do a lot of exercise on top of that. But then it's best to sit under your rubber tree or Bodhi tree. So in any case, making contact with a living being so that you can now drain its energy is a bit mean. And so many people get a pet, for example, or older men, younger partners, and things like that. So that's completely normal cultural vampirism. Then there is the possibility of having the battery refilled as a living being. And that's when you become an antenna, because ultimately we live and weave, so to speak, in the divine energy of creation. Around 1850, it was still called ether. Around 1650, Franz Anton Mesmer on. So it was known in the earlier secret societies that we actually live in a kind of ether energy, and not just in oxygen. So everything here is like an electromagnetic source. And because we ourselves are electromagnetic beings, if we turn ourselves into antennas, we can recharge ourselves. But they don't tell us that. And that's the so-called secret, that some people don't even have to eat much anymore, or don't have to eat at all, that they then just have a few exercises to do to become an antenna. And of course, from that point of view, that's no wonder at all. We're just stupid. Or perhaps we have been living in a culture of stupidity for centuries that we no longer know. So these are always the secrets that are passed on in so-called secret societies. Or I stopped doing that with the Asians at some point and thought, I'm kidding. Others are already doing me. These are always exercises, and even more expensive exercises. And level 3 was always said, there is also level 3, but we don't teach it. Only Grandmaster Wimas Willwider gives them yes and goodbye. Then I said to myself, Christianity is more democratic, and at least libraries are open to me. These are really people like Ennemoser, Animal Magnetism, and stuff like that. So they used to be real university professors. Jungstilling was also a professor on the side and knew about it. I think Jungstilling wrote Theory of Spirit Lore, Ennemoser, Handbook of Magic, and the like. But that's not magic. As we think of an evil sorcerer with a pointed hat, although that could also be a nice antenna. Yes, then he might still need aluminum foil. Jokes aside. So all the knowledge about this ether fluid is also the topic of free energy, which free energy generators still create. The Tesla also drove the car without an engine. It only had one free energy antenna. That's all knowledge. That's destroyed for you, so that you stay in your really nice culture cage and believe there are no other options, and that's progress. The laying hens believe that too. Yes, but then there are the free-range hens, which aren't quite free-range either, and then there are the real ones, like guinea fowl and partridges. They just laugh at the other stupid chickens. So a chicken doesn't have to be stupid. And so we live in this culture in a knowledge cage, and you get really insulted if you pass on or use this old knowledge publicly, because then the shares of certain owners fall and so on. So because these are the real combat topics, I definitely don't teach them on YouTube. But of course I give exercises so that mind control begins once you've traumatized a person like that really well. Then he's afraid, and then you can trigger it, and then he stays well behaved. Then you don't come up with stupid thoughts, and you don't feel like sitting still, because in silence the trauma would come up again, and then you follow certain authorities. But that's not my mystique. So first of all, you don't need a conspiracy theory to get out of this mind control zone. You can notice how traumatized you are and how attached you are. That's part of the culture. And then of course it's about when you see that you were sitting in a mental cage, and that you also lacked knowledge, so you were also sitting in a spiritual cage, then at some point you want to free your body, and now we're getting there again with this kidney and creator energy. The average cultural person becomes fatally demented at the age of 70 to 80, and of course has a heart condition from all the stress and believes that his death is natural. My Asian teacher used to tell me that they just die from stress. And that's a shame, because you can recharge your energy. So everyone has a battery and you can charge it. And you didn't tell them to show off, because it was normal that Taoist teachers, for example, used to stand in the marketplace. China also did a great job. And they actually wanted to sell their amulets. And then they showed who was more powerful, because their protective amulets were the best. And then all of them, so to speak, simply played with what appears to you to be a solid reality. Because ultimately these are all just electromagnetic images, holograms and the like. And for example, they had horseshoes and massive iron stirrups thrown at them, and they stuck in their aura. So it's again about electromagnetic forces and electromagnetism. Unfortunately, I almost just slept through physics. But electromagnetism is actually 1,000,000 times stronger than gravitational force. So of course you can, if you have charged your field in a certain way and then reversed the polarity, then of course you can also turn it into a magnetic levitation train. So these are these Buddhist trances, these Tibetan trances, fast runners, which really seem to fly over the surface of the earth in a trance. Or simply, of course, where Christian mystics accidentally ended up, for example, Teresa of Avila, who could levitate. So the real secrets only begin when you deal with all these frequencies and electromagnetism. So we live in the electromagnetic sauce, and we are actually designed to be antennas for it. And the person who has all this power again, which he was actually meant to have, is of course full of power, i.e. full of power. First of all, of course, it's a matter of whoever takes part in the elephant course via Zoom will also be recorded. Don't run away from the elephant course, don't rush. You'll learn how to really load yourself up again. First of all, of course, with energy, i.e. with free energy here from creation. And now, of course, there is the higher level with the Holy Spirit. And now I just call that unity consciousness. Anyone who is in unity consciousness is not afraid and is full of joy, is deeply relaxed, chilled, calm, powerful. And then that's, how do you say that? When you no longer concentrate on your physical limitations. You are everything and you are one with God. And at the end of our Monday meditation, we really concentrate fully on the body and reactivate the body feeling, because then we are alone again. So then you are both a true human being, i.e. individual and one with God. True God, I don't want to say all of it now. So unity consciousness is really even higher than all these electromagnetic tricks, as I would call it. And the temptation of a spiritual teacher is, of course, to attract as many customers as possible, i.e. in a market fighting way, with all these tricks. And so there is still, for example, Grandmaster Rolf, who shows how he can roll a PET bottle across the room or dent it simply by concentrating, but he is not in love. So that's the difference. Whether you are really full of power, and then it can be dangerous. In this respect, I wouldn't strictly separate white and black for magic. But everyone who puts you in the cage is already black. So anyone who wants to control another person externally, and that can also be a partner or a hierarchical employment relationship. So you don't have to do this with magic tricks. So you can kill people mentally in many ways, or even lead them to death too early. And then there is this whole mix of people who know about this authority. First of all, on the creation level, but my goal here on this mystical path is to first lead you into unity consciousness via this entire trauma healing stage of love mysticism, or with the Monday exercise. Now I have taken it out that you should bless the world forever, so that you really get this expansive heart energy first, because when you're in a good mood, you don't do anything bad in quotation marks, and he doesn't take the stupidity, which is usually never meant in a bad way, but it's just stupid. So it's unconscious, the stupidity of the neighbor, not so personally, but says, it's like a force of nature. Hamlet already suffered down there and called out, Lord, let brains reign. And so the stage for me is, as I said, with the mantra, you first form a great focus, love mysticism towards unity consciousness, and now that you are mostly nice and well-behaved, and realize that getting wrinkles is not so nice, and now I'm offering all the tricks, then just use Wonder Hands to really de-traumatize and de-block yourself. Because if you turn yourself into an antenna again too early, universal life energy, things can get really bad. So it's like a blocked river that overflows its banks. Yes. And I don't want to read the complaint letters by email. I just want to see thanks and praise in the morning, because no matter what good things I did in the past for my mother and my father, it was always just shit. So I think I have now 3 years, only morning praise deserved in the opposite sense. I said that is the spirit of Jesus Christ, and through that you come into unity consciousness. When you are in unity consciousness, you have neither the desire to work, nor the desire to have a partner, nor the desire to call mom, because then you are just in unity and realizes that it is so arbitrary. You could also be a squirrel, and only your physical uniqueness limits your perspective. And in that respect, traumatized people in particular are almost out of the body right from the start, and wander astrally through the bodies of others, and always feel what they feel. I want to get them back into their bodies first. So actually, just concentrating on our physical body creates the illusion of limitation and the boundary of space and time, and it is almost seamless. When we are simply full of energy and full of strength, we first get that teenage feeling again and realize that psychotherapy is actually, let's say 50%, so that I'm not so critical. Today I have 50% of my wonderful day superfluous, because when you're full of strength again, you're not afraid, and you don't need any advice, but you say, no matter what, I'll roll the tree trunk out of the way. I don't care. I'll take a look at everyone who shoots. So that's when you're full of strength. You don't panic and you don't doubt yourself, and you don't think, it's too heavy for me. Can you give me some advice or something like that? So this surplus of strength is missing. It was too much. 40 hours a week plus family. The monk doesn't have either, in case you ever notice. So you often run after enlighteners and worship yourself. Oh, great master, tell me. But he doesn't work and lives in a millionaire's shared apartment, like a large estate owner or a castle lord. If you think he can tell you something about enlightenment, He would at most say, "Stop working and look for a castle, then you'll be happy." So when we're full of energy, when we use the mantra anyway, we often shoot in the area of unity consciousness, if you have a while. So there's the elephant exercise, which is just standing there and then recharging the kidney energy. Is you the one world doesn't really matter. And you ask yourself, how could I ever watch TV? It's nice. I'm happy with myself. I like myself. If my partner doesn't like me, I don't care. My goldfish still likes me. So that's this calmness, this serenity. On the other hand, if you're really exhausted and sick, you'll naturally have self-doubt, and then you'll feel like you're cut off, and then you don't feel like practicing. Maybe this won't do me any good and I'll die anyway. So I distinguished your innate energy, this electromagnetic ocean, for which you can become an antenna again with fairly simple tricks. So my goal is to start my sports competitions at 100, i.e. to compete and then collect lots of medals by 120. And then I have to reorient myself again. Maybe I'll move to Vilcabamba because I don't care about the rest. Or Onikaria. But in Vilcabamba they live the longest, and they also smoke and drink alcohol and have a lot of sex. Well, at least until the culture came along, you can also eat yogurt and eat meat again. Otherwise, you tell yourself, you'll live to be 240 years old without schnitzel and without yogurt? Nope. This is, of course, a slap in the face for everyone who now lives here in such an orthorectic, orthophagic way, and always meditates and abstains. And then you realize that it's all about the regulation of your life energy. Culture makes you everything in a very short time. You notice that even as a school child. And then as a teenager, you are a deeply discharged battery, and now they tell you that this is normal during puberty. No, you realize that you're dying to yourself, and you don't see any way to escape. This is a healthy reaction to becoming depressed. Yes, we already have that in the mantra about unity consciousness and the Holy Spirit. But unity consciousness, as I said, then cultural boundaries don't really matter to you because there is only one reality, and every separation or every enmity. Yes, you approach culture more pragmatically. Jesus also said, pay taxes, and on the other hand, he materialized the gold piece from the mouth of a fish. I don't know the trick, I'll be honest, otherwise I wouldn't be at university anymore, but I have to admit that I haven't asked God enough about it. So maybe I should finally start. Dear God, now I'm going to sit there and look out there. Dear God, show me the trick with the gold piece and the fish.